I've not sung in the shower for weeks. The dishes are spilling over in the sink. The curtains have been closed for 5 days, swamping my tiny, porky flat in dark light. The air is so still around me. Swallowed up by the Bermuda Triangle of my bed, my settee, and the kettle. Swore I'd never let myself feel this again. I want to rewind time. I want to ask you to stay again and again in the same way forever. Endlessly dive, plunge, scuba dive, float under the roof of a water sky. We won't need oxygen if we have each other. I want to dissolve in you. Let our hearts effervescently bubble and fizz like sherbet lollies, the sweet, sour, ephemeral magic tap dancing on our lips and fizzling with silliness and new love. You know, our love isn't a new love, but it feels like new love. Felt like new love. Felt as sweet and innocent as a pick and mix. I want you to search for me. Pick me out the bag and let me melt on your tongue. I want you to simmer me to boiling point and drink me. All that can't be. Yearning for safety, for belonging, for time to heal away from the memories of every mark on the wall, the emptiness of your cupboard and the vacancy of myself. It's so quiet. I swear I can hear the clouds in the distance. 3 taps, 3 rings, 1 word. Hi! My lip wobbles. I need to come here, Mum. You drive. I exist. The city comes and leaves. Shades of green blur beside us. I can see the heart. Welcome to Cumbria sign is visible ahead. Sky cracks, rain falls, the clouds bumble against the fell tops, the weather here is shite. A bittersweet broth of love pain pouring from the blue, but it's always grey here. I close my eyes and open them as we enter the city. The roads are quiet, they always are on a Sunday. It's late, I don't know the time, but the city smells of biscuits. Ginger nuts, I think. I like it when it smells like custard cream's the best. I remember my first boyfriend. His house was right next to the factory. We used to hang out the box room of his mum's house, smoking rollies, eating strawberry donuts and sipping sweet bourbon, talking about our forever, love aplenty, conspiring about our escape, dreaming dreams taller than Dixon's chimney. He got trapped after I left. Some say this city is cursed, with a stone inscribed with a curse from long ago. I say it's blessed. It's blessed with a blissful ignorance of the world beyond the CA. At 11, I believed that Santa was real until my dad told me before going to big school. Bradley Stubb shouted that he was made up, sticking wet plaster on a big red balloon, and I closed my eyes and said, he's real, until I was redder and bigger than the balloon, soaring, escaping upwards like up. We need to stop at the spa on the way home for some bread and milk. And snapped out my nostalgia drowning. You'll need to go in though because I'm in my pyjamas. And my vision is blotchy when I step in, like that 4th dimension you enter when you rub your eyes for too long. I'll force them shut and open again, squinting under a prison of fluorescent strip lights. The shop is cold. I feel the bobble of goosebumps on my arm. I aim to get out as soon as possible. Brown bread, not that granary shite, and a 4 pint of green milk. I beeline for the till. Shelley looks at me. Today she's sporting a drawn-on moustache. A while, lass, haven't seen you in a while. I croak. My mouth is dry. I've been away. I need to go away, me. Been dying for an holiday. Been thinking, something nice like that Malaga. Our Paul went, said he was gusty. Room smelt like Gia though. Spain is nice. Aye. I'm Colombo today. She points to the moustache. Folks round here have been a bit down since the floods and that, so, taking it upon myself one day at a time to cheer them up. I smile. This is the magic. Hotels, lass? I spot that familiar yellow packet on the shelves under the till. And a packet of these. Save them for a crisp sarnie later. Back in the car, my mum's got CFM on, and the advert for Warby Farm Park blares. I get in, still silent. I get home, still silent. No need for conversation. I spend the next few days witnessing the world pass by. Body is present, but mind is away somewhere, I don't know where. Bleeding in and out of concentration, hear an endless chat of how shit Carlisle is, void of drive and accomplishment. A place run by names, not the elected, swimming in small town mentality, backhole society with a wilting high street, its history left to decay and crumble easier than a day-old Routledge's blobby biscuit. It's not ambitious, but it's comfortable. I want to disagree, but I can't. I'm archetype, seeking safety in a place that other people find claustrophobic, wanting to be consumed by sinking sand. The most significant thing here is its insignificance. Are you okay? My sister says. Yeah. Not right now, but I will be. I reply, staring out of the window. I made this, she says, offering a plate over. It's Mars bar cake like Nana used to make. I snort, nose laugh. Whatever the word is for when you laugh but only a small huff of air comes out your nose, that's a funny human reaction. Why don't we have a word for it? I miss Nana, she says. Remember when we used to play McDonald's drive-through in the back of their car because it had those sliding windows? She shakes her head. I know talking about Nana is hard for her because she doesn't remember the same amount as I do. So I tell her the stories again and again so she can make more memories. Me and you, right, we used to climb in the back of the boot of that Mitsubishi Shogun Grandad picked up for somewhere for Nout when we used to stay in the summer. You're only little, so I picked you up and lifted you, and we'd pretend that people drove up beside the windows, and then we'd slide them, take their orders and pretend to make their burgers and then give them. I see the memory take its own second life, remounting behind her eyes. The purple reddish car? Yeah. It always smelt warm. I remember. Something in me thaws. It's tinier than a grain of sand and I feel it melt down my spine. A start. I think back to coming home. My body was in autopilot, knowing it longed for the space to mend before my mind could even register it, to help me heal. But I'm finding each day I'm here, my mind's circulating again and again back to other sad times, other memories dragging me further and further down. This emptiness, this pain feels endless. I get out my phone and type into Google how to survive a heartbreak and glare at my own teenage naivety before not hitting search. The only answer is inside me. I leave the house for the first time in a week in a feeble attempt to breathe something other than inside air. I'm still sad, still so very full of sad. My feet are heavy, and the oxygen force-fed into my lungs makes my head light. People around me walking their small, fashionable dogs. Cyclists weaving in and off the road. A little girl skipping, swinging book bag, telling Dad about how today Robin at school picked his nose and eated it, but no one else saw it, just her. Everyone living their lives in their own lane. I take a different way. Usually I turn left and down and then up the bank, but today I turn right. I cross the complicated crossing, watch my feet pace the square stones. Look up, I'm here. A plaque on the wall. I don't think I've ever actually read it before. It's an unfriendly, lurking reminder of how no one wanted to stake this place as their own. Roman wall, it speaks. Beneath this spot lie the foundations of Hadrian's Wall, built about 226 AD. The wind whistles a chant my fabric remembers. From the soil my food was grown in and built the body that holds me. May the fire and the sword that stopped Adam from the gates of paradise stop them from the glory of heaven until they forbear and make amends. Time stops. I can hear the tick of its clock, of my own clock. My heart's fingertips leap from my chest and I feel the glide of history framed in glass. I feel a story bigger than my own surge through my veins. I hear the roar of men spitting blood for their side. I hear the woeful wail of the women mourning their children, fathers, husbands, brothers lost. I see swords and flesh and cavalry and reavers rush and blur and whirl around me. I feel the land yearning for meaning, for purpose beyond this war of power. The land beneath me crying out for love to be wanted, to be held and prized, for the fighting to just stop. This ground below me has chaos and instability woven into its roots. Its whole history has been a pawn. No wonder the people now wish for ease and simplicity. I take from them, the voice hisses, and cast down all good deeds that they did or shall do till they rise from this cursing. I've never prayed, but I pray. I pray for healing. I pray for the curse to be lifted. I pray for here to feel purpose and significance again. For it to stop inspiring people to dream dreams bigger than it can serve, and for it to realise it can be everything to someone. I pray no one will break its heart again, use its flesh to fight upon again. I pray bruises heal, time mends, and it finds purpose away from its past, a new identity. And with all that wishing and wanting, that historic belief in magic, dark and light, I feel a tiny part of me heal. I don't think you truly appreciate this place until you leave. If you never know anything else but magic, you don't know its brilliance until it's no longer there. I breathe. Time restarts. And I look all the way up to the sky. I don't need you to taste the magic of sherbet again. I have home.
They didn't always look like this, the Fells. Thousands of years ago, glaciers reshaped this whole landscape, steadily and inevitably chiseling it into the crags, lake basins and valleys that I can see today through the train window. Well, not exactly like what it is today. When the glaciers finally retreated, you could still walk from Blackpool to the Isle of Man, but the scene the ice revealed and the scene I'm seeing were sort of similar. Geologists say that the last ice age never actually ended, although it might do soon. The last surviving glaciers, the remnants of that rain of glass, cling on in the far north, thawing into fjords or on mountain tops surrounded by advancing grass. The ice in the far south is from a completely different ice age, and it's over 13 times as old. Although, again, today, at the South Pole, that ancient cold is melting. When humans finally made it to this corner of the islands that we would later call Britain, they discovered a place where 80% of the land was covered in forest. Over the years, they cut that back to about 5%. The ancestors of those sheep probably had something to do with this, brought in by the Vikings. They were the ones who cut down tree after tree, so many for their herds that I've heard the word field emerged from the word feld. You've seen the sheep. They're called Herdwicks. That's the breed. Another Viking word. We've got a few of them. They're hardy sheep, cute as can be. Stupidly sweet, like cotton wool but with a head and some feet. They live on the open fells, flocks of them. But the farmers don't have to worry about them wandering off or getting lost. Over the centuries, generations and generations, they have been conditioned to understand which part of the fell theirs is to graze in. The farmers don't even need to train them. The mothers teach their own young. It's amazing. Decade after decade, they stay in the same place. And with the humans of Cumbria, especially the older ones, it's the same thing. No one leaves. No one in my family ever left, actually, until my uncle went to uni. It's crazy how much things have changed. These days, most young people leave Cumbria. I go to university in Birmingham half the time, and the only reason I'm on my way home now is to get some quiet during reading week. Back then, though, it was less common. The day my uncle graduated was one of the few times my grandparents got a neighbour to cover their work in 43 years. My grandparents are farmers, or they were. And when you're a farmer, you always need to be back for milking time. Today, the farm doesn't have any animals. The outbuildings are empty apart from a few farm implements slowly gathering rust. It's a place haunted by the ghost of itself. The farm has barely changed, actually, since it was built in 1711, over 300 years ago. The beams of the barn are even older. They come from dismantled ships from the old port in Millenthorpe. Standing in the centre of the barn, you can still almost feel the rocking of the waves, hear the creaking of the ropes. You can almost smell the tea from Bengal or the tobacco from America. In truth, the ships that docked at Millenthorpe probably never came from further than France, but to me, the barn has always contained a whole age of discovery between its walls. Even the way the land was farmed never really changed from when my great-great-granddad bought it to when my grandparents retired. It was a style of farming that was passed down from generation to generation, infused into our genes, stretching back over the ages, the rotations of the fields and seasons. In autumn, they'd harvest the turnips, mangels, kale and potatoes. The children would hollow out some of the turnips, cut eye slits in them and stick a candle inside on the 5th of November. In summer, while the sun was shining, my granddads would bale the hay, small enough for even the youngest of the children to be able to help move it. They'd stack the bales up in the barn, right up to the beams, so many of them that in a good year, they would overflow into the rafters of the surrounding buildings, and even into the farmyard outside, where they would be covered and protected from the weather by a sheet. It sounds like a lot of hay, but it was needed. They had to store enough to feed the whole farm all winter, when the animals would be penned in anywhere they could fit, where they'd be protected from the wet winter weather. The cart house, the stable, the black hall, the milling steads, the tool shed, the dairy, the heifer shippen and the bull hole were all filled with mooing. In springtime, they'd release the lambs back into the fields, counting each. At some point in the past, the farmers of Cumbria developed their own number system, counting system, specifically for sheep. One is Yan, two is Tian, Tethera, Methera, Pimp, Cethera, Leathera, Hoverer, Doverer, Dick. It almost sounds like poetry. But after generations of counting sheep, our dialect fell unconscious. No one counts like that anymore, it's a shame really. You cannot hear the peaks and valleys echoing in my speech. Is spring now or beginning to be? The snowdrops are beginning to show their faces. Spring was always my granddad's favourite time of the year. All that new life. Of course, he always knew what would happen to the new animals in the end, and he didn't always like it. But he cared for them. And he really cared. And some animals he'd get attached to, especially the awkward ones, like the cow that managed to get into the kitchen and switch the kettle on. Of course, all animals go the same way in the end. But in the time that when they're alive, there was a proximity to nature on that farm, back when it was active, that you don't really see anywhere today. It was a very traditional way of farming, Grandad calls it. Nan calls it old-fashioned. Most people today would probably say organic. The chickens were completely free range, probably too free range. They would occasionally get run over accidentally. And they always produced hay, never silage, and had a horse to do the ploughing until 1971. You don't get many farms like that today. They're a dying breed. Take the farm next door. The technology they've got is like something out of a sci-fi movie. Each one of their dairy cows has a tag in her ear, which tells the farmer her temperature, her movements, her ruminations, when she's getting ill, how much feed she needs, and what that feed should be made of. All displayed in real time on an app on the farmer's phone. All the milking is automated, and the tractors make sure fertilizer is spread with a scientifically precise evenness using GPS technology. The idea is to make farming more efficient, to make life easier. All the new technology fulfilled one of those promises. Farming today is more efficient, more productive than ever before. The cows are healthier, the grass is greener, but it's not made anyone's life easier. It's just meant British meat can be sold cheaper, for smaller margins, which means farms need more animals to start with, which means they need more land, which means smaller farms get swallowed whole, so bigger farmers can grow. Small farms like the one my grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents called home. And the farmers that are left with all of this technology to produce food are still working just as long days as my granddad used to, under immense pressure, farming more intensively than ever, barely a holiday in sight, still struggling to get by, looking back nostalgically to a simpler time. I don't know, maybe it's a good thing my grandparents retired when they did. It wouldn't have been good to have animals to look after when the floods came. The floods they were meant to be protected against. After all, that's why the water board had deepened the beck back in the 50s, reducing the number of fish, but supposedly protecting the land. In December 2015, an extratropical cyclone called Storm Desmond directed what is called an atmospheric river over Cumbria. The rain was biblical. Roads closed, bridges collapsed, and houses flooded and had to be evacuated. The farmhouse itself was lucky to stay dry. It's no surprise that in 2019, when Greta Thunberg started striking school for the climate, thousands of young people around Cumbria joined in, including me. If climate change goes ahead as expected, Cumbria will see a 20% increase in winter rain. We've already had a taste of what that looks like. We don't want to see what comes next. How the sea will rise to swallow the reclaimed farmlands around Morecambe Bay and Solway. And the high mountain birds will fly to find another home, if they can. Birds like dotterel, golden plover, dunlin and ring ouzel. If you think their names are beautiful, wait till you hear their songs. To begin with, Cumbrian farmers might actually benefit from warming weather. It will mean a longer growing season, so that pastures will flush earlier and the final cuts of silage will be later. Farms in summer will be more productive, but at the price of more and more winter flooding. All the while, we'll see an increase in economic and environmental refugees streaming into Cumbria from the Pacific Archipelagos or the Maldives, fleeing from countries that will then exist entirely under the sea. I don't like to talk to my grandparents about climate change. My granddad always says that farmers can never own the land, that they're only ever custodians of it, keeping it safe for future generations. He knows what it is to try and keep Earth alive, to sustain it and to create out of it without exploiting it. But with Facebook algorithms only feeding us opinions we already agree with, and newspapers continually stirring up hate to sell papers, off those divides, it's not surprising if some farmers will see young environmentalists as clueless, spoiled brats. And some environmentalists will see farmers as psychotic animal torturers. Farmers have always passed on knowledge within their own communities. And with less people farming today, less conversations are going to happen about what farming actually means. Now, I'm not saying farming doesn't need to change. The UN are calling for rapid, far-reaching, and unprecedented changes in all aspects of our society. It looks like change is inevitable. Either we change our whole society, or the climate changes our society for us, but a lot more people die. Of course farming needs to change, or maybe just go back to the way it was before, but we all need to change. And a lot of farmers feel like it's all on them when it's not. And I know my grandparents are worried. They've always known farming to be something passed on from generation to generation, parent to child. And now a lot of that knowledge, those stories, that relationship to the land is being lost. And I can't take over the farm. 34 acres of land isn't enough anymore. Not that I'd have the slightest idea what to do with it. I can't even keep a spider plant alive. I don't have a solution. I'm not an expert in farming or climate change. I'm just thinking, staring out the window as my train hurtles north along its tracks. As the last ice of the last ice age melts in the far north, and an ice 13 times as old melts in the far south, and I'm counting the hills that mark my journey home. Yan, tan, tethera, methera, pimp, cethera, leathera, hovera, dovera, dick.
And after some time, there was this innate feeling, this sensation that I was moving or spinning. Or perhaps it wasn't me myself who was spinning, but that the objects surrounding me were spinning, even when they weren't. Even when there was nothing surrounding me as far as the eye could see. Even when I was lying there completely still, unmoving and motionless in the dark. There was a ringing in one ear where there was silence in the other, and I had trouble focusing my eyes. And when I had finally lost my balance, I laughed lightly to myself. Not because something was funny exactly, or because I'm used to falling ordinarily, or even because I was intoxicated slightly. No, I laughed because I knew that there was a name for what I was experiencing, and I knew that my symptoms had indicated a kind of vertigo. And I knew that my feeling was correct and that my intuition was right, because the earth on which I was laying was in fact spinning, as it had been all along. And I knew that it would keep on spinning in the purest, most perfect vacuum of empty space, because it was born that way. I was then, as I am now, located somewhere that feels exactly like that. Exactly like empty space. Somewhere that feels like nowhere. Somewhere that feels far away, although from what, I couldn't say. I mean, I'm not sure exactly, because it's not that it feels far away from a particular place, although it is, but rather it feels far away from something else, from a feeling I once had, or a person I once knew, or a life I once lived, a life I am still living, a life that exists because two people who were once complete strangers decided to build a home with each other. A home which is not this home or even their previous one, but a home all the same. The house in which I am currently located was built on the site of an ancient settlement and is reachable by 3 roads which also lead to nowhere. Opposite there is a stream which flows freely to somewhere else, and beside it there is a small green with a medieval well. and the village in which it was built, in which it once collected water, its history is preserved in the pages of a book which is now out of print. There is a bench which sits against it, on which I sometimes sit, and in front of it are 6 planters in which white and lilac tulips grow. And in the corner by the door we use least often, the door reserved for guests, are yellow roses, like the kind which are preserved in faded photographs in leather-bound photo albums of my parents on their wedding day. My mother had arranged the bouquets, and my mother had baked the wedding cake, and my mother had decorated the cake, and afterwards, years later, in fact, 6 years later to be precise, I was born. The roses were an anniversary present and are known as the poet's wife, although my father is not a poet, but rather a scientist who had once studied chemistry. A word which, as I grow older, I learn to understand as the branch of science concerned with the substances of which all matter is composed, the investigation of their properties and reactions, and the use of such reactions to form new substances. Chemistry. A word I also learn to understand as the psychological and emotional interaction between two people. A word at 16, I think I share with the boy sat opposite me as we sit next to the water in an awkward silence while searching for stones with a perfect symmetry which we can skim on the water's surface, and in the process our fingers brush against each other accidentally, and I reach for the can at my feet to calm my nerves. And I reach for the taste of cider on our lips, and the taste of tobacco on his, and the taste of something I can't quite describe, something I haven't yet tasted, something I haven't yet lived. It's growing darker now. The sun is slowly sinking into the water, slowly drowning in the water, which ripples from the stones we have thrown in the silence, and his face is half lit by an open flame, and he has these dark circles underneath his eyes, which I think tell stories of a life he has lived, even though he is also only 16 and hasn't really lived it either. He has these small freckles on his nose like I do, which I might otherwise not have noticed were I not as close to his face as I am right now, and he's a little bit broken. And so am I. But I think that he is beautiful. And I don't think that I am. But I think that somehow, together, maybe we can close those gaps for each other. Somehow fill those empty spaces. Somehow be home for each other. And so over the summer in a field miles away from our hometown, beneath the light from celestial bodies, our lips touch lightly for the first time, and our bodies collide, and it feels nice. In fact, it feels more than nice, it does, but it's not, how could it? It's not what I was hoping for. It's not the reaction I was secretly searching for, because nothing has changed and nothing new was created in the process, because I'm still me and he's still him, and so it's not chemistry, is it? Because as far as I can tell, we're both still just a little bit broken inside. From that moment on, I vowed to stop searching for home in other people. And I try. I really fucking try. I do, but some habits are hard to break, and some habits are ingrained within you, like they're part of your DNA, part of your genetic makeup, and so I failed. And I continue to search for home in all of the wrong places, all of the wrong people, and all of the wrong faces. There is a white willow tree in the garden, and In early spring, during pollination, its catkins develop tiny capsules encased in white down, which help the seeds to float on the wind to avoid growing right below their parent. And when they do, they float like a dandelion seed head might, like a heron does as it takes flight, or like a feather would when dropped from a great height. And when they finally land on the ground, they gather around my bare feet like atoms, chemically bonded to one another, forming a geometric pattern like honeycomb. And I wonder, and my mind drifts over the dry stone garden wall in which cracks exist because of the way it was constructed, the way it was built without any mortar to bind the stones together. And I wonder how it still stands on its own. And I wonder why honeybees build hexagonal honeycomb in the first place. I wonder why not circles or squares or triangles. The answer, the honeycomb conjecture as it's known, remedies that a hexagonal grid is the best way to divide a surface into equal area with the least total perimeter, the least gaps, the least empty spaces. And the taste of it and the sweetness of it reminds me of home, of sticky toffee from Cartmel and cinder toffee from Keswick Market, and home cooking and fell gliding and walks around Crummock Water and Derwent Water and Windermere, the bodies of water I once drank from in springs, once felt the impetuous flow of in the palms of my hand, once floated on the surface of whilst I waited to feel a little less anxious, a little less powerless, a little less broken inside. As I grow older, I feel this overwhelming sensation, this urgency to get away more and more from this nowhere land. And I feel it most the summer after sixth form before going away to university. And once there, I walk across the city, barefoot in the rain, in search of something or someone, in search of anything to make me feel complete. But there is no one. And there is nothing but the smell of wet asphalt and waterlogged clothing which clings to my skin, and I try to make the best of it. I try to put down roots because that's what I think I'm supposed to do, but somehow this doesn't feel like home, and somehow I don't feel I belong here either. I look in the mirror and I don't recognise the face staring back at me as my own. And so I pretend. I pretend to know who I am. I pretend to be someone I'm not. I pretend to know things and think things and feel things, even when I don't, even when I feel nothing at all, even when I feel numb. I make friends with the wrong people. I make friends with the right people. I fall for the wrong people. I fall for the wrong people. I fall. And I come home. I come home. I come home to the face of the friend who sits next to me by the coast in a comfortable silence whilst he takes photographs, and I reach for the can at my feet. And the taste of salt in the air, and the taste of lager on my lips, and the taste of something I can't quite describe, something I haven't yet tasted, something I haven't yet lived. And I'm looking at a photograph of a face that I recognise, a face that just might be beautiful in its own way. A face that has small lines in the outer corners by the eyes that tell stories of a life she has lived, even though she still has so much more life left to live. And his eyes are the same, and he knows how it feels to be broken. and he knows how it feels to be lost, and he knows how it feels to be found. And so over the summer in our northwestern town, this corner of our world, this corner of this world, we drive into the night at 90 miles per hour down country lanes, listening to Origin of Symmetry, because we are young and we are invincible, and home is still nowhere to be found. And when we finally reach our destination in the early hours of the morning, we climb out the car and we lie diagonally in the middle of the road, taking up as much space as physically possible, and somehow the nausea goes away and my eyes adjust in the darkness, and there are more falling stars than I have ever seen before. And in one breath I explain to him how they're not really stars at all, but instead how they are nothing more than dust, as tiny as a single grain of sand, which heat up and glow because of the speed they are travelling as they enter the Earth's atmosphere. And I think about how most of them miss us, and how most of them have a duality that allows for breathtaking displays of beauty that mask the power of a world-shattering and deadly destructive force. And suddenly I don't feel so anxious or so powerless to it anymore. I close my eyes and I vow to swallow that memory whole, to let it colour the corners of my mind, because some memories remain and some memories are ingrained within you, like they're part of your DNA, part of your genetic makeup, and I succeed. And I am changed, even though I'm still just me. I am not the same, and something new was created in the process known as chemistry. I open my eyes and I am home. I am home, I am home. And in this moment I realise, and my mind drifts over the garden wall in which cracks exist, and I realise that those broken bits, those spaces I tried so hard to fill, are actually the places in which home already exists, in which home already lives, in which home will keep on living in the purest, most perfect vacuum of empty space, because I was born that way.
Mum always chooses this table. She likes to sit in the armchair. I don't think she realises that leaves me balanced on the uncomfortable stool that sits opposite. I would much rather sit on the sofas, like we did when we came in here with Dad. Fresh off the fells, we would walk down the little back street, away from the bustle of tourists in the market square, and he would always get the fruit scones, cheerfully complaining to the staff when they had sold out. I wish you were still with us, Dad. Today marks only a year since we lost you, but it feels like a lifetime. And I'm sorry that Mum can't talk about it. Feels like she doesn't care. Is it wrong to wish you were here in place of her? Maybe we shouldn't have come in here. Too many memories. At least it's peaceful. We're the only customers, which is unusual considering it's a warm weekend in June. Do you want to take off your coat, Mum? It's a bit hot in here, don't you think? Mum? For goodness sake, it's not hard to respond with a yes or no. Never mind, I should order. The face behind the counter. She's unfamiliar. Looks nice enough, a local. She must be a student working the season. She's grinning at me. Hello, Earl Grey, please. Teabag's fine. Aha, I see you are discerning customers. Milk or lemon? I like it with milk. It just softens it, you know. Her manner is annoyingly cheerful. I'm getting more of an emotional response ordering tea from a waitress than I'm getting from my mum. Oh, and we have delicious homemade fruit scones. Can I tempt you? Oh, I need a break. I feel like I'm about to boil over. God damn! Oh, I put the last few coins in the parking meter. Oh, the prospect of sitting through this is too exhausting. Tea for one, please. No lemon or milk. I don't want anything, thanks. I'll have to go out and get some cash. I'll pay at the end. Is that all right? The waitress nods and does that stupid grin. I have become such a miserable cow. I've forgotten how to return a smile. Tea is here. That was quick. Thank you. No problem. Enjoy. At least Mum looks relaxed. She's enjoying the music. It's some kind of nostalgic warbling. I guess it's worth putting up with it if it keeps her quiet. Mum, I'm going to pop out and get some cash and I might as well grab the shopping too. I won't be long, okay? She barely speaks to me. I know today has been a bad day, but careful, it's hot. I'll be back really soon. I just need a moment alone. What a weird thing to do. Go out for a coffee with your mum and then just disappear in the middle of things. She slips out of the door and accelerates into the crowds of tourists. She's the outdoorsy sort, wearing running shoes with a small backpack and a waterproof tied about her hips. Perhaps she didn't realise how sunny it was going to be, or maybe she's just prepared for the changeable Cumbrian weather. She's looking upwards, to Skiddaw. I bet she's wishing she were up on the fells. I know I am. Well, really I'd like to be anywhere but here, making some contribution to the world that goes beyond simply hydrating people. The lady, what is she doing? She's fumbling with her bag, pulling out crumpled receipts, tissues, sweet wrappers. Now she's upended her bag on the table and general clutter is spilling over everything. It's amazing so much stuff could fit. But then she's got this fantastic old-timey carpet bag. It matches the teapot I gave her with its cheery print. Something is glinting among the rubbish. It casts a gash of light on the cafe wall. Well, that's pretty unusual. I don't feel like anyone really carries knives around here, let alone an elderly woman. But there it is, this great ugly blackened blade. The record that was playing must have ended, and I can hear the lady muttering. Oh, I'm not sure what to do. The daughter, she'll come back and... Oh, there's something really off about her too. Should I call the police? Oh, pretty sure it's illegal to carry something like that around in your handbag. Oh, just stop. Oh, there must be a rational explanation. If only Susie was in, she would know what to do. One of the tissues from the bag has fallen in her cup and it's slowly disintegrating. A fresh teacup. It's bone china with a delicate hand-painted flowers and golden edging. Are you all right, lovely? She's reaching for the knife. Oh, the knife is a pair of scissors. She asks if they're mine. I think they must be fabric scissors. We used something similar in textiles at school. They came from your bag. She's telling me how she can't find her purse. She must want to pay for her tea. It's all right. Your daughter's going to pay. Oh dear, she's about to take a sip from the... Wait! Here, look. I've got you a fresh cup. I'm not sure she understands. A tissue dropped into that one. And I'm taking the old cup from her, gently giving her the new one, and she says, "What a pretty little teacup. It's so nice to drink from proper china." It's really lovely that she noticed. What a lovely smile. It's a shame other young people aren't more like you. So nice to be smiled at. She's got lovely white teeth. And her eyes, oh, they're a nice colour. Oh, she's going back behind the cakes. She's very nice as she answers the phone. This tea is nice. Nice it's not too strong. I hate strong tea. And what a pretty little cup to drink from. Pink flowers with a shiny edge. Gold. Golden edge. A nice cup of tea. A woman is at the door, holding lots of bags with food in. She smiles at me, but I don't know who she is. She's coming towards me. Have you finished your tea? The parking runs out soon. We could do with getting going. Are you all right? There's nobody else here. Is this woman talking to me? I'll ask. I wonder why she looks so worried. She's talking at me again. She's telling me, doctor's this afternoon at 3 and we can't be late. We do have to go soon. It's Dr. Emmett, the one with the curly brown hair. I don't know who you mean or who you are. One of the ladies that helps. A nurse. Or do you drive a car? I can't think. Think of the word. The people that take you from shops to home. Oh, I don't know. This woman, she's strange. Difficult. I want her to go. The girl with the lovely eyes. She's back again. I wonder why she looks worried. Maybe her talking on the phone didn't go so well. She's pretty. She must have a sweetheart. She's talking to me. What's my name? It's Daisy. Oh, that's nice. We're both flowers. Her name is Rose. I'll ask Rose. About the stranger who's asking me to go. Rose will know. She's nice. Rose tells me the stranger is my daughter. I don't think I have one of those. It's all so very confusing. I remember Ivor, my dear husband. I remember how we used to come in here all the time when it was still the Royal Oak. Half of Keswick would pile in on a Tuesday, would just be locals, no tourists. We came just to hear Lola sing. She was the daughter of a Borrowdale sheep farmer, but her voice was from the angels. Ivor and I, we fell in love as we danced to the sound of her voice. So we named our precious daughter after her. Lola. There she is. She's got tears in her eyes and her fingers are white from the strain of the bags of shopping. Lola, Lola, I'm so sorry. I forgot you again. I don't know how it happens. She smiles and says, Mum, it's okay. When Mum started to change and we realised she wasn't coming back to us, Dad just got on with it. He never lost patience. He never stopped loving her. He never showed his pain. But I think maybe it was as hard on him as it is on me now, and I wonder if that's part of what made his heart go so suddenly the way it did. Dad was fit as a fiddle. There is no way it could have been his beloved Skiddaw that killed him. I think he died of a broken heart. I'm not sure that's something the mountain rescue are trained to deal with. I carried a handful of him back up there in the tin box he used for his sandwiches. There was a little gust of wind and the ashes blew back into my face. Dad's last laugh. Losing him was unimaginably difficult. Dad was the glue in our little family. But somehow this is harder. Watching her slip further and further away when I feel like I never truly knew her to begin with. We've always been very different people, so I don't think we could ever really hope to fully understand each other. They never told me why they named me Lola. I never thought to ask. I'm sure there are lots of things like that, and maybe some of them, if I get her in the right moment, she might be able to give me a glimpse of the answer. I need to remember that underneath all the layers of complex confusion, she is still Mum. Oh, it's 2:45. Oh, we'll miss the appointment if we don't leave now. And oh, the parking, You know what? It doesn't matter if the doctors send me an uppity letter about wasted appointment time, or if I get a concerned phone call from the care coordinator, or even if those parking vultures slap a yellow sticker on my car. None of that matters. But this moment, where my mum is actually here, it's invaluable. We're going to have another pot of tea. Tea for two. and we're going to order scones.